Alright, Fuzz Pie Guy here. Haven't made a ham radio video for a while, so I figured let's make an antenna. So as you can see here, I got a bunch of parts laying around. A bunch of fittings and pieces of pipe. You'll need a piece of 1/2 inch, 10-foot stick of copper pipe. You'll need 2 T's, 10 elbows, and you could probably get away with using a 1/2 inch coupling, but I had one of these laying around, so just like an LB type thing that I'm just going to use, because the two pieces of pipe's going to come in here like such, and that's what we're going to connect our coax to. So I'll throw a link in the description for everything to my website for more photos and the video and part list. So we're going to need, like I said, 2 1/2 inch T's, 10 1/2 inch elbows. Then we need to cut 2 1-inch pieces, 2 7-inch pieces, 2 6-inch pieces, 2 3.5 inch pieces, 4 8.5 inch pieces, and 2 8-inch pieces. And we got a fly, not included. So I went ahead and scuffed these up, but actually forgot to do an end. So I don't have no emery cloth or whatever that plumbers might use, or HVACs, so I just got some sandpaper, but I'll just do this one while I'm here. We just want to buff these up a little bit. Got a little dent there, but no problem. We're not building furniture. So you want to scuff them up a little bit so the solder will work a little bit better. And you're going to need, obviously, solder, a torch, some flux, 50-50 solder or 95-5 or whatever you may want to use. That's about it. Once you get everything cut, we can start to put it together. And you'll need a piece of PVC and obviously some feed line to hold the antenna. I don't know if I want to use 3/4 inch or 1 inch PVC Schedule 40 stuff. And we might actually use a connector here, like an SO connector here, to tie the leads to, other than just soldering the feed line directly right to the pipe. So we can unscrew it like I did in my other antennas. So anyway, I'll be right back while we start putting this thing together. Alright, we're back. So now we can start the assembly. So I just got my torch here, some solder, flux, and I'm going to use this end connector to use it like I did on my other previous antennas. We'll cut a hole in here, then we'll screw this in place. Then we can screw a piece of coax on it, other than just straight running the feed line and soldering it or whatever to the copper pipe inside the box. I mean, you could do it either way, but that's how I'm going to do it for this video. So let's get moving. So now that we have our pieces cut, this is the first time that I am making this, so it's going to be new to me. So let's get our tape measure here. So these are the 8.5 long pieces, so we need to have it like this, so we can just put a little flux on this so we don't have to do it again. So we can put a little flux on there and a little flux on there. Won't need too much. So now that we have that, we can put that right there. Then we need another elbow. Then we need a 6-inch piece, which is not that, so it has to be one of these guys. So let's put a little flux on that guy. And a little flux on him. So we can go ahead and we'll just put that elbow there. And like such. So we have 8.5, 8.5, and a 6. So now, after that, we can flux up our 1 inch on both sides there. Then we need a T. Then we need a elbow. So now that we have that, we can flux up this guy. And now these two, the T and the elbow, need to be vertical. Get this out of the way here. To be vertical. So it'll be like that. So 8.5, 8.5, 6, 1 inch, T, and an elbow. Alright, so now we need to flux this guy and take our 8-inch piece and we'll just throw a little flux on him. And take our elbow, put another elbow on there, and we'll put that elbow on. Then we need to take another elbow and put him on here, but he needs to be vertical also. So what we have here is 8.5, 8, 1 inch, 6 inch, and 8.5. Then elbow, 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 T. So what we could do is solder this. So what you might have to do is maybe lay it on a concrete floor or whatnot. You can maybe kind of tack it with some solder. You definitely don't want to solder on wood, or you might have big issues. So I'm going to try and solder this. So I'm not going to show my skills in that because they're not the best. But just got to make sure that you keep these two elbows and this T vertical, or we're going to have issues. So I'll be back. Okay. So actually I took this apart a little bit to make it easier to solder. I put it in the vise, and then I finished it up on the in the garage here on the floor. On the concrete floor. So we basically got the bottom done now. Now we need to repeat this basically for the top. But what we can go ahead and do is take our 3.5 inch piece, and we need to put that in where the T is. So we'll make sure that's in there. Then we need to take our 7-inch piece, and we can put it in one of the elbows. So we can put that in there like such. And when you're messing with a torch, you definitely want to be careful, safe. Don't burn yourself or burn your house down or anything like that. So definitely be careful while doing it. So we'll take our other 7-inch piece and we're going to put that in the other elbow, like such. So, now it's obviously not straight, but they'll come together once we solder up the rest. So what we can do is basically just set that aside. Then we need to build our top, and we're just basically going to do what we did on the bottom. So we need to find our 8.5 inch piece, which I don't know what I did with it. Actually, I only cut 2, I think, and I need 4. So I'm going to have to cut 2. I'll be right back. All right. See if I can get that out of the way. Try this again. Okay. Now I got my 2 pieces that I forgot to cut. So let's go ahead and put a little flux on these guys. So we'll just take our 2 8.5 inch pieces here, throw a little flux on, put a little bit of put an elbow on there, like such, and that guy will be like that, so we have it 8, 8. Then we'll put a little more flux on him. And we'll take our 6 inch piece and we'll put a little flux on that guy. So turn that back over, get another elbow, and let's put a little bit on him. Okay, so now that we have that guy, so now, like I said, this is just basically a repeat of the bottom. We'll put a T on there, then take our 1 inch, do the same thing. I'll make another video of the SWRs and stuff on this antenna. Then we'll take another elbow. We won't throw it in this one because it'll be 20 mile long and people don't like long videos. So, alright, so now that that's done, we'll take our 8 inch piece, put a little flux on him, and take another elbow. Put him there like that, and I should have just fluxed him while I had it, but we'll put a little flux on the other 8 inch, and we'll do that. So like I said, this is basically just a repeat of the bottom or the top, whatever, don't really matter because they're identical. So, like I said, you might want to take this apart to solder. You could take that apart, solder the T up, because you can't make a mistake until you do the elbow. So, I'll be right back after that. Alright, so now I have this one soldered up. Like I said, I took it apart and put some of it in the vise and did the rest on the floor. So now we have our top and our bottom. And we have our little box here. Now you could use like a 1/2 inch coupling if you want, but I have these laying around, so I'm just going to use one of these. So what we're going to do is I'm going to slide that over that, because once we solder this, we're not going to be able to connect it. So let me solder this up. Okay, so now that I have this soldered up, I had to go back and re-solder this because I put this on this side and that side on this side, so I had to go back and fix it. So what we can do now is just finish putting this thing together. such. Now what we can do is kind of level it up a little bit, things a little bit more. So now that we have it pretty square, we can go ahead and finish soldering the two last elbows. But now I gotta watch I don't melt my box here, so let's tape this guy up somehow, and hopefully it doesn't get too hot to melt the tape. The thing fall. So we're going to solder these two guys up, and we should be good to go. So get a little more solder here. Got a wet rag, comes in handy. And now let's finish the last two solder joints. So there's one. And if you let that cool off a couple seconds and throw a wet rag over it, cleans up the solder joint pretty decent. So doesn't turn out too bad. So we just cool it off a little bit, and we can just be careful and rub it down to get the flux and crap off of it. So, but there we have it. We have a built cube 2-meter antenna. So all we need to do now is hook up the feed lines. And actually I didn't solder them two right there. So let's do that quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so now that we have this on here, I had to kind of press that apart a little bit. Now yours may vary the gap depending on how accurate you cut the pieces and whatnot. But they like for you to have about around the 1/8 inch of a gap. So we're probably around that. Wouldn't hurt to probably be a hair better, but we'll deal with it. So now that I have the lid here and I have my little bulkhead here, I'm going to come off of the center a little bit to offset this. And I'm going to drill a hole here in the center of this guy the best that I can, so we can try to mount this thing. So now that we have the center a little bit, I'm just going to come off a little bit. Now you don't have to use one of these. You can just use a simple old, just running the feed line in and solder or whatnot to the pipe, or use some ring terminals or whatever. But we're going to use one of these bulkheads. So need to go a little bit more. And a stepper bit is the way to go. Whoever came up with the stepper bit was a smart person. Okay. So now we can go ahead and just screw this in with some short screws and we can solder. Now what I did, I think, with my other antenna that I made, I used some screws, then on the back side where the nut would be, I put a ring terminal with a wire connected to it to go to one side of the antenna here, then come off the center pin to the other side of it. So that's how I'll do this. Okay, so I went ahead and just drilled 2 little holes here, like 1/8 inch or whatnot, to start for my screws. Or if you want, you could solder it, whatever you decide. So this is how I did this. I drilled a hole big enough to fit the little offset there on the bulkhead. Then I used some screws here. Then this screw is where we're going to hook the ground to, the shield. So I put the screw, then I used a nut. So what we're going to do is use another washer, well, use a washer. Maybe I can't use a washer. We'll use a nut and hold this ring terminal between both of the nuts. Then all we'll do is just tighten it up here so we can try to get the best connection possible. Now, like I said, you don't have to use a bulkhead. You could just go hook the feed line directly right up to this. But we're just going to do it this way. Then you could just use whatever screws, self-tapping screws that you want in there, and put one on one side and one on the other side. Then you might have to bend this guy a little bit. And once you have that done, you can just close it up, put the screws on, and there you go. Put a little silicone around that or whatnot. You can then what I did on my other antenna is I just drilled a hole through here and put a screw in through here into the copper pipe to hold that steel. Which I'm not going to show all that because I don't want to make this video any longer than it has to be. Then this is 1 inch PVC. Then what you'll want to do is here on the corner, mount your antenna to your pipe. However you decide to do it, that's up to you, depending if it's a permanent installation or temporary. You can maybe use nylon ties or whatever if you're going to do it for like field day or whatnot, or just whatever. So however you decide to mount that, then do a ballon down here with, like, you know, maybe 4 or 5 turns, and that's it. So the next video about this antenna, we'll hook it up to the SWR meter and see what we're at. But thanks for watching. Stay tuned for another one. I'll throw a link in the description for the link to my website for the plant, for the dimensions and whatnot, and for obviously these videos. So thanks for watching.